Welcome to a very special episode of Go Lurk Yourself. Today we've got myself, Krunnky, CherryCake, Gorby, and TheSunnyDee. We're going to talk about game impressions of some games we've been playing recently, both new and old. How are you guys doing today?
Fantastic.
Great.
I'm going to apologize in advance. I feel like I'm coming down with something, but I'll try not to sneeze on Mike.
Man, I appreciate you being here, even though you're not feeling well. We've been trying to get this mini episode going. We're going to have special guests week over week and hopefully put out a mini episode every week. But for now, we're calling it extra just in case we miss a week. If you get one, bonus. If you don't, sorry. We're still going to commit to our 1 a week schedule until then. But if you guys are okay with it, I'd like to start out with TheSunnyDee, who's been playing, is it Dark Souls?
Yes, I've been playing the first Dark Souls.
Dark Souls 1. Tell us about it, Dee. What do you think about it?
I like it and I hate it at the same time.
That's fair enough.
Sounds like being married.
Oh, God. Too true.
No, I'm enjoying it.
Wait, are you talking about Dark Souls or our marriage right now? You got to be specific.
Dee's enjoying the marriage.
Let's see. No, kidding. I love our marriage. And I hate Dark Souls. How about that?
Glad you got that right.
No, I almost said Dark Souls. Wait, no kidding. No, I really, I'm enjoying it. At the other part, though, I've had some frustrating turns with it. My patience is starting to wear a little bit.
Well, because for those who don't know, she's at probably the hardest boss in the game right now. It's 2 bosses, Ornstein and Smo, and it's notoriously difficult for everybody. And I think for a time, weren't you trying to solo it?
Yes, I decided, hey, I'll just try to solo it even without Solaire's help, because I had said I was going to go through the game by myself, except for getting NPC help from Solaire, specifically for gargoyles, which I did. The gargoyles boss fight.
People who've never played the game, the mechanics of the game work. You can go into every boss fight by yourself, or sometimes there are NPC helpers that you can bring in with you. And some of the purists out there, some of the people in the community of streamers that we hang out with, are all about challenge runs and doing, they'll give you a bunch of grief like you're not a real Dark Souls player if you bring in help.
Yeah, but when I learned how to play Bloodborne, because I was new to that style of game, and a friend of mine said, I always, will bring in an NPC or go help, bring somebody in the first time I fight the boss, just to kind of get the mechanics down. Isn't that normal?
I am from the school of thought that it's fine to bring in NPC help. The game mechanics exist for that very reason. If you want to be a chest beater and say, hey, I'm a badass and I went in there with no weapon and soul level 1 and beat him without summon, that's great. But I don't look down on people who don't do that. If you enjoy the game as much as I do, no matter how you play it, I'm happy for people to go in and enjoy it.
Well, it to me, Dark Souls is how many people do you know that own a Subaru car?
You?
Is that it?
Pretty much.
Oh, all right. Well, this
maybe a couple more. Analogy. I don't know.
Essentially, you have to drink the Kool-Aid to really enjoy that. It's one of those things. Like there's almost a cult around those Subarus, and the same can be said for Dark Souls.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just people love Dark Souls or hate Dark Souls. There's not somebody that's like, this is a mediocre game. It's either love or hate.
Well, Dee, you got into Dark Souls basically through watching me and other people play it, right? You fell in love with the story first?
Yes, I enjoyed the story. I loved watching you play through it.
Sorry, and there's a story? Story in Dark Souls.
There's an actual story and there's a plot. No, you have to kind of figure out some of the parts. But no, I loved it. I loved the whole aesthetic of that game. The castles, the Dark Ages. I enjoyed it, but watching you go through it was sometimes like torture. I'm like, how can he just keep going and going, die after losing so many souls? That's why I ended up wanting to actually try to play it, though, because you always said, hey, you should really try to play this. I know it looks frustrating, but once you get into it, once you beat that first boss, you're going to get that adrenaline rush, and you're going to be like, okay, I see why so many people love this game.
It's just like cocaine.
It's fun at first, but eventually it will kill you.
I'm serious. Like, it's just a super high. That first, it's so satisfying beating bosses in those games.
See, I must be missing something here because when I played it, I never got that.
I would think if you don't like the games, it'd be difficult to to really enjoy those games if you couldn't get that feeling when you killed. I don't know where you quit, but
what was I on?
After Capra.
Yeah, I think I just got to a point where I played it. I just died so many times. I was just so annoyed with the game. Even defeating that boss just didn't override the overwhelming feeling of being really disappointed about just dying constantly.
Have you tried any of the other? I mean, I'm not sure if you console play at all on like the newer consoles, but have you tried? No. Okay, Bloodborne or
that's on PS4.
No.
Yeah, and that's my first exposure. I can tell you, I don't know that I drink the Kool-Aid for Dark Souls. I like it, but it's not a game that I am going to go through ever. Probably because I watched enough people stream it and go through it. Yeah. Also, I'm a contrarian, so everything you guys like, I hate.
This is popular. Screw it. I hate it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go twirl my mustache.
You hipster.
I was at that thing last night.
So, D, after you made it, I mean, you've made it roughly halfway or at the halfway mark. What would you say your experience versus what you watch and what you've actually played? How does it differ? Do you find that there's anything about playing it that you didn't expect?
I would say it's a lot more satisfying playing it. As you said, you watch people. I watch people speedrun, and it's amazing. But actually being able to do it yourself, getting over certain areas, has grown my confidence in my gaming. I go through an area, and I'm like, I actually did that by myself. So it has given me that little bit more confidence.
Are you planning on going through 2 and 3 and all the expansions, or is this it?
What I would like to do is I'd like to go play Bloodborne. Yeah, I'd like to go play Bloodborne next. I don't want to get what people comment about. You can get soulsed out. And I think Bloodborne will be different enough, especially since you can be a little bit more aggressive in that game. And
for sure,
I think I'm going to enjoy that more.
I think that's why I like it more, because I am not a patient. I mean, you guys have played enough games with me. I'm not.
Yeah, you're not very tactical, are you, Gorby?
No, I'm a sledgehammer. You know what I mean? That's how I play those games.
Peter Gabriel.
Hey.
That wasn't about. Never mind. I just remember the video with all the sperms.
Digress. So where does Bloodborne fall in the timeline?
It's actually not. It's not even really in the same universe unless you're like subscribed to fan theories. According to Miyazaki, the series creator, Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 are in their own universe. Demon Souls is separate, and Bloodborne's separate.
So when was it released then?
Oh, you meant physically when it came out. Bloodborne was probably 3 or 4 years ago, I'd say now.
Was that the last one they did, or was it Dark Souls 3 they did?
Dark Souls 3 was last. Bloodborne was like close to the launch of the PS4. It was one of the first in the first year window, I know. So he's not bought a PS4. But do you have anything more to say about Dark Souls, D, before we move on?
Well, if somebody's looking for a challenge, I would highly suggest it. It's not easy. I had a viewer come in and he watched me play Undertale, which is a completely different game. And he watched me and he's like, I think I'm going to buy this game. I was going,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So I just warned him. I said, I would suggest this if you want a challenge, but it is hard. He's like, yeah, I think I'm going to do it.
But speaking of terribly difficult games, that's as good a transition as we're going to get over to a game you just got today or yesterday?
I got it yesterday, actually.
And it is, what is it called again?
It is Cuphead.
Cuphead.
Yes. It's a brand new game that a lot of people... there's been a lot of hype around this game. And I have seen people really looking forward to it and really wanted to play it. I think it had a couple of setbacks in production, but it is now with us. I bought it yesterday, and I only got around to playing it today. But I was watching our friend Beardy the Barbarian play it yesterday. He was streaming it.
Big shout out to Beardy.
Yeah. And I was immediately intrigued by the art style of it, the music of it, the gameplay of it. Everything about it looked incredible. So, yeah, after watching Beardy, I actually went and got it and did a small playthrough. Well, I think I got through the first world or level of it today.
Yeah, and watching you play it this morning and getting ready for this podcast, I wanted to at least see it so I could talk to it. It has a very awesome art style. It looks like the early Mickey Mouse cartoon era. Like, what is that? The 40s and 50s?
30s.
Earlier than that, 20s. Yeah. Yeah. About when you were born.
But it's funny because I'm reminded.
You got me.
Oh.
Well, he's older than me, so you're really digging both of us. But
oh yeah, sorry.
But what was really crazy is it reminds me of, I can't shake the feeling of that it's like a Mega Man, like the early 8-bit Mega Mans, not in art style, but in gameplay, because it's, you run around, you run and gun, you got some abilities, but the worlds and the bosses and the worlds are very unforgiving, it seems.
Yes, they are. There was a lot of discussion before it actually got released about the difficulty of the game and of the bosses and of the levels. But from what I've played so far, I know it's only the first world that I've played, but there is scope for developing your skills. So while it is tough, while you go into a battle, you don't really know what's coming at you, you don't know what the bosses are going to do with you, they have various stages or phases, what attacks they will throw at you. So it's learning what they will do and reading what the bosses will do towards you. They have like certain movements that you will recognize, so they will do this kind of attack. So you are going to die. I mean, there's no way getting around it because you can't predict what they will do straight off the bat. You have to learn what they're going to do after you've died. So while it is tough, it's not so tough. I was saying to Gorby earlier, like, it's not so tough that you don't feel like you won't reach the end of it. And the great thing about this, and what I found out today actually after defeating one of the bosses, was they actually give you a timeline. If you die during the fight, they give you a timeline of how far you got to the end of the level, so you can see how far away you were from actually defeating the boss, which I thought was really neat.
That little motivator that helps you after it helps soften the blow of you died, which I can't help but notice. Exactly like Dark Souls, you died on the screen.
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I mean, I can't help but compare them, and I know you're going to give me shit for this because I compare everything to Dark Souls, but they're kind of asking for it by putting a "you died" on the screen. But when you were talking about learning the how the mechanics of the bosses and the enemies and the levels work, and that your motivation is to keep building upon that, it's exactly the same thing that brings me to the Souls series, Bloodborne or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, you're not wrong. It's just in a different setting. Obviously, Dark Souls is 3D. This is only 2D scroller.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way with the phases is very comparable. Yeah, you're right.
The aesthetics are quite a bit different. I can't help but notice, like, I've been urging you to do voices on your stream when you do story games, and today's the first time I've ever seen you do it. It was awesome.
Wait. She did voices?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed it.
Sorry.
It should be on a VOD, so if you really want to hear them, it was only because I was by myself in the house. There was no one else to be embarrassed in front of.
You know what? It was very entertaining, and you should do it every time you play, in my opinion.
We'll see.
Oh, that would be awesome.
The only problem is that when I start doing that, is that I run out of different voices to do, so I just end up doing the same voice.
I've been accused of using the same voice anytime I imitate the opposite sex.
What do you mean?
Get over here!
Just a generic high-pitched voice.
Yes, exactly.
I was going to ask, Cherry, is it the platforming that draws you to it too? Compared to, like a Dark Souls game, it looks hard. It looks like, as I said, like a 2D Dark Souls-like game.
Yeah.
But it's got that platforming feel to it.
I think some of it is probably to do because I grew up with like 2D side-scrollers like, Mario and Sonic. So there is probably that element that drew me to it. I think the main thing of it is probably the music and the art style of it, because this is something that I don't think I've ever seen done in a video game before.
Yeah,
Correct
it's
me
unique to be sure.
if like there is any out there, let me know. But
I can't help but wonder how much your recent foray into Mario Maker is helping you through this too, because I watched some other people play Cuphead before and after you started, and you made the first world look like a joke. I mean, I was like, oh, this game looks kind of easy. But I saw people that I know are decent gamers really struggle with even the first couple levels. So
yeah, and like if you're used to 2D platformers, then it will be a big advantage to play this game.
Gorby, do you have any questions about Cuphead at all?
Actually, I didn't know. It reminded me because I thought Salt and Sanctuary was a PS4 exclusive because they're, the 2D side scroller Souls-like game. I do have some questions. Is it more like a Mega Man than a Dark Souls?
I'd say it's yes, I would say it's more like a Mega Man game of the way it's set out, Gorby, but there are definite elements, like Krunnky was saying, there's elements of Dark Souls in it because of the difficulty that's involved and learning phases of bosses. But I'm sure there are other games out there that have that mechanic anyway. But Dark Souls is the first one that Krunnky equated it to, so it's kind of a mash of both.
Yeah, I'd say it's more Mega Man than Dark Souls just based on what I've seen, and I played a lot of Mega Man, early Mega Man. There's power-ups, there's things you can do, but it's mostly 2D side-scrolling platformer, learning the mechanics and dodging enemy attacks. In fact, I don't remember what they were, but the boxer guys you were fighting with earlier on in the world, one of the first bosses.
Yeah.
They did this thing where you had to jump over they throw punches and these balls would shoot across. You had to duck under them and jump over them. Reminds me very much of the giant yellow monster from Mega Man 2, if you remember that, Gorby. Like it's almost an homage to that boss fight, in my opinion.
It likely is. I don't know. It's probably like Boomerang, Windman, or I can't remember which guy that is.
Yeah, I don't remember. It's in Dr. Wily's Castle. I think it's the second one of Dr. Wily's Castle on Mega Man 2.
Salt and Sanctuary is on Steam, and it's a lot of fun. And it's a Souls
2D
game.
Dark Souls.
It's a 2D Dark Souls action platformer. It's an interesting game for sure.
Well, since we got you talking, Gorby, you have a special surprise for us, I understand.
Wait, what?
We talked before the podcast started about what games we're all going to talk about. Gorby's like, well, I don't know. You just got to wait and find out.
Well, it's hard for me to, put words into my mouth prior to them coming out. Does that make sense?
Okay. Fair enough.
So I have a problem. First of all, I'm going to start with saying I've been playing the new Metroid on 3DS, and it is a lot of fun. It's a Metroid game, and I don't like 3D on that platform. So I turned it on for this game, and it's amazing. But then I quickly shut it off because the first game that I thought, wow, if I look at this right angle, this looks pretty good. But it's not for me, and so I've been playing that a lot before I go to sleep, and I'm not super far, but it really is. It's a Metroid game, which makes me happy. It's not, all these other. There's so many Metroidvania style games out there that it's nice to have one of the originals back and really, really a lot of fun.
One of the more recent ones that I know this group's played and seen a lot of is Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight does a really good job of being almost like Metroid, but not. The aesthetics are a lot different because you're bugs.
Right. So I have decided, and I want to put this on the podcast. I'm going to put this up. I'm going to build this page over the next 1 week to probably 20 years. I'm going to start start a support group for people who buy Steam games and never play them, because as we all know, I think the percentage is 80% of games go unplayed after purchased on Steam.
Well, I'd love to be a founding member on that because I have about that ratio of games I've never started in my Steam library.
Wow.
I don't know that it's 80, but it's high. I think at one point I saw 73%. And you can actually, there are tools out there that analyze your library and will tell you your percentages.
Yep.
It's kind of cool.
But they only go back so far because I've had Steam since Half-Life 2 came with it packaged on the disc, and some of those games I know I've played show up as 0% on there.
Oh yeah, for sure. I know I have. I probably have. Well, I mean, think about it. You buy a Humble Bundle and you get 20 games, and you only bought it for one game, and you're sitting on that going, well, I guess these are here. So that's part of the problem.
and then you've got the Steam sale like halfway through the year where
Exactly.
prices are ridiculously low. So you're like, oh, I might play that. It's only like a couple of quid or, a few dollars. I might just get it on the off chance that I'll play it.
Exactly. And so now I've started building a wish list for the first time ever. And I regret that because I get emailed every time there's a game on sale. So I have a lot going on in my life that I shouldn't be playing as many video games as I have been playing. And I really have kind of weaned back in the last couple of weeks trying to focus on some other projects. But Divinity 2 comes out. And I want to just take you guys back to 1997. I had
before Cherry was born.
Yeah,
I was 12.
Before she quit breastfeeding with her mother.
Oh, wait a second there.
Wow.
That's getting edited out.
I guess Cherry's editing this episode.
Okay. So I had a PC that could not run Baldur's Gate.
Oh my God.
This was the beginning of, oh God, I got to go out and get a new motherboard processor. And this cycle, of course, started. I mean, I had PCs prior to that, but that was when I was like, this game is forcing me. And back then, games forced. That's why hardware grew so fast. Was the game industry helped push it forward.
Oh yeah.
And so the beginning was Baldur's Gate. Well, then a couple years later, 2000, we get Baldur's Gate 2, which I think still goes down as one of the greatest RPGs of all time. And I love that game. So fast forward, there's a bunch of games like it, but Divinity 2 comes out this week. Was it this week or last week?
This week.
And it's sitting in my cart. And I'm like, I think it was whenever it was, it's been sitting in my cart since the day of. And I'm ready to hit purchase, and I'm trying my best because I know I don't have 100 hours. I don't have 50. I don't even have 20 hours to put into that game based on all the projects I have in my personal life, based on all the PUBG we play as a group.
I've been trying to get you to do this podcast, this episode right here for 3 weeks.
Right. And so it's a battle, but I am very excited to play it. I know I haven't played it yet, but all I have heard are just some of the most amazing things I like about RPGs, where there's an element to what you're playing, to how it interacts with other people. And a lot of RPGs will just skim over that.
I'll tell you the most exciting thing about it, and we've been talking about it this week off and on, to me, is this 4-player co-op thing.
Absolutely. And did you guys went through Divinity 1?
D played it a bit, right, D?
So,
Yeah, I played through some of it.
I've never touched it because I don't know what this game is.
Okay, so it's a turn-based RPG, and essentially you're playing. I don't want to say angels, but you're playing some sort of. There's some sort of aspect of karma in this game, where in the single-player game you can have the more good you do, the blah blah blah, but you can do some bad stuff with one of the characters. There's a whole system. There's a balancing system between the bad one of your characters do versus the good. And I can't remember what it's called. Dee, can you jump on here? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm sorry, Gorby, I can't
Morality
remember.
system?
I think so. I believe that's what it's called. So the whole concept of 4 assholes playing this game, because that's what it's going to be,
Yeah,
really excites me. This is a game that I would love to play 4-player, but it's not like we could get 4 people for 100 hours, even though we've gotten 3 or 4 people consistently since, I don't know what, April, playing PUBG. I don't know. I haven't really decided on this game.
But
I know I'm going to buy it.
this game incorporates drop-in, drop-out system, doesn't it? So
It absolutely does.
you're not obliged to, always be there.
Correct.
I was about to say I think the reason PUBG works so well is because of a drop-in, drop-out mechanic. And if this game has it, then why not?
Yeah, and it absolutely does have this drop-in, drop-out ability. So, but the problem is out-leveling. And I'm guessing what it'll do is when Krunnky is 20 levels higher than me, it would, boost me.
Right.
It was never going to be the other way around. So yeah, that's definitely something I'm looking forward to. And there are a few other games that really I'm holding off. I did something good for myself and not pre-order the Xbox One X.
Nice.
What which is just kind of surprising for me because I own every other console, and I even have a PS4 Pro. I upgraded, and I'm not even sure why. That was kind of a ripoff. But it is what it is. And
well, you learned something for your money there. You learned a lesson that you didn't.
Probably why I didn't buy the X.
Right? And that kind of brings you back to whenever I build PCs too, and one of the lessons I had to learn, like in the early 2000s, was, hey, yeah, you might be able to get 10 more frames per second if you buy the double expensive graphics card, but there's a sweet spot, and I think that's where consoles are finding themselves right now. The Xbox One X is not the sweet spot; it's the Razor's Edge version of buying the $2,000, $3,000 gaming PC right now.
Maybe.
It
really just depends. The early reports, I think, are kind of negative. We're going to see. They don't have any they have Forza coming out. And no offense, I know I have a friend that loves these games and spends hundreds of hours, many friends that do. Something about driving a car reminds me of driving to work, and I don't really want to do it for a video game.
Now, look, I'll put up with a lot on this podcast. You bragging about having many friends is an outright lie, and you know it.
Man, in that racing community, holy cow. It's almost like the Dark Souls community.
What a bunch of dicks.
Oh, God.
Exactly.
I've been playing Dark Souls off and on and Bloodborne since, I don't know, whenever the hell Dark Souls 1 came out. I didn't buy it right when it came out, but when it blew up as being like a new retro-style game, I got it and fell in love with it. Ad nausea. You talked about being Soulsed out before. I bought Dark Souls 1, played it, bought Dark Souls 2, played it, then right when Dark Souls 3 was about to come out, or actually after Bloodborne was done, I thought, you know what, I want to go play Demon Souls. It was like the PS3 Souls game that predated all of the other ones. It's a bit of a hipster Souls game that not a lot of people have played. And I went out and I bought a PS3 and I played the first couple of levels. And I was like, I'm totally not in the mood for this, because I had played so many Souls games up until then. And that was probably, would you say, D, 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, I would say it's like 3 years ago. Yep. And
Dark Souls 3 expansion came out earlier this year. I played through it pretty quick, and then I kind of let it sit. I didn't play anything for a while, and somewhere over the summer, I really got the urge to go give Demon Souls a try. I think it was when we started talking to Chichinlaw, who was on the podcast, I think episode 2 or 4. I don't remember exactly which one he was on. He's one of the earlier ones, and he's recommended a couple of really good games to me, Nier Automata, and I have not bought them yet, but he's got me interested in the Yakuza games, and he loves the Persona games, which I know Gorby's played several hundred hours of, right, Gorby?
I spent 70 hours in Persona 5. Okay. And I actually just talked about this last night with a buddy who also was playing it. And it's a great game. It loses me a little towards the end just because there's only so much linear I can take.
Yeah. Well, so earlier this summer, I just got it in my head. I'm going to play Demon Souls. And I went to, I was kind of tinkering with it, and I went to GameStop like I do every Friday at work at lunch. And they had a promotion going on. You could buy a PS3 and one game for like I think it was $75 to $100 for both. And that's a really deep discount. Usually a PS3 is like $150 by itself. So I snagged them up, and I come home to play them. I was all excited, and I told my Discord, my stream, I'm like, I'm going to play Demon Souls tonight. I'm taking the dive, and I started it up, and damn controller doesn't work. Oh, shit. So I've talked about this before, but I fixed the controller on stream, and then it still wasn't working. I took one back, and then I fixed the next day. I fixed the controller on stream. Then the PS4 started overheating, or PS3, excuse me, started overheating, and I took it back, got another one. It was doing the same thing. So I thought, well, maybe the game disc has got a scratch I can't see. So I took the game back, got a digital copy. It was still doing it. Finally, I went back and got a third PS3. But I was getting a couple levels here and there into the game between each mechanical failure. For those of you guys who are Souls players who have never played Demon Souls, it's a very unique experience to play all of the Dark Souls series and the Bloodborne series and then go back. But I would highly recommend it to anybody who is interested in playing it. If you have a way to get a PS3, there, you can search around on eBay or your local. I don't know where you guys live, but we have Craigslist here. I think the States have Craigslist. But that's really all I have to say about Demon Souls. Do you guys have anything to add or questions about it?
So my question is, what is the aesthetic like in Demon Souls? I didn't get to watch much of your stream.
So
is it more Dark Souls or more Bloodborne, or is it like in the middle?
It's more, the aesthetic is more Dark Souls. It's castles and knights. But the instead of in Bloodborne, spoiler alert, you have Lovecraftian otherworld gods turning. They've got demons versus humanity in this game. Some of the theming, the bleakness of Dark Souls and Bloodborne is there. There's NPCs that you follow through the game that give you the story. I've only played it through once. I probably missed some things, but one of the lore people and his name is escaping me right now, but one of the lore people that you first find in the first world, if you keep rescuing him throughout the game, he ends up being the king's son and does what Souls always has done to me. And that's, the story's there if you want it, but if you just want to power through the game because you love the mechanics and the fighting, it doesn't get in your way. It's there. And I love that because it's kind of like, if you put the work in to learn it, it's more rewarding, and it's like a rabbit hole you go down. But the way they were able to construct a story that is both a Shyamalan or M. Night Shyamalan twist ending, and you can still interpret everything that they do in the game two ways at the end, and left this huge question that they didn't answer until Dark Souls 3.
Old school games made you hunt for the story as well. And so that is appealing to me, and I can see why a lot of people are like, with Dark Souls, who cares, right? But this is an old school game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think you would agree, and I think everybody in this channel would agree. This whole system is very old school, and that's probably why this system appeals to me. That's why I love Neo as well.
That's the one I need to play next. I've not actually gone through Neo. I have it on deck.
That story's in your face. You don't have to dig for that one, but it's fun. I like that game a lot.
Nice. Well, guys, I think that brings us to the end. Is there anything else you guys want to do? Well, let's give a shout out to Mr. GorbyAK. He's twitch.tv/GorbyAK. Make sure to give him a follow. We've got CherryCakeTV, TheSunnyDee, and I appreciate you guys hanging out. We'll catch you next time. Bye. You guys want to say bye?
No, we're good.
Bye.
Bye.